Welcome to Women, Men, and Relationships, Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, and Fit to Love. I'm JJ Flazanes.
And I am long distance, Doug Sandler, way on the other side of the country. Hi, JJ.
Hi, Doug.
I kind of miss you, but I like seeing your face as we're doing this.
Because when we're recording face-to-face, you're not looking at me?
Maybe something like that. So you're so intimidating to be so close to you.
Really? That's very interesting to say about your partner, that I'm intimidating when you're close to me. So is this relationship going to be better long distance than it is when we're face-to-face?
It's not about our relationship. This is about our compatibility as podcast co-hosts.
Oh, okay.
Your smartness is just, it just oozes smartness.
You know what Frank said to me yesterday? Something about my confidence. I can't remember. I did record it. I need to go back and watch it because it was a confirmation for me of what I do or how I'm different now than I used to be about comparing myself to others.
Well, don't you remember when I first met you? What was the reason why I said that that I didn't think that we would potentially be friends? Not because I didn't think that you were a nice person. What did I say?
You were intimidated.
Yeah, I was ultra intimidated by you. Why? Do you remember?
I don't remember you saying confident. I thought you said it because I was smart.
Yeah, I was intimidated by you because of you. You were so smart. I mean, immediately, even without you sharing a word, maybe you shared 3 or 4 words with me. I'm like, ooh, she's really smart. She'll never like me. So I just completely discounted you as somebody that I could be friends with.
I hear that, and part of me takes it as a compliment, and the other part of it makes me sad.
I know. We've talked about this before. I don't want you to think about it from a sad perspective. I wasn't feeling it as something to be. I mean, maybe you felt sad for yourself because of potential relationships that you've missed out on because you've been too smart. Is that possible?
This wasn't the path I wanted to go down today, but it's a good one because it's real and it's what's going on right now. And it's probably a good time now to sort of outline both relationships and self-growth, like how the two go together and why relationships work, when relationships don't work, what to expect in a relationship. So yes, I have been told, I worked with a therapist years ago who I actually just saw for the first time in like 3 years last week, had an amazing session. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. I want to share some of my own breakthroughs because I think that they're relevant to you out there. And I also want you to know, I want to be vulnerable and have you know where I am, because I think sometimes you compare yourself to me. I know I've had friends in the past who were friends of mine, and when it came to doing things, let's say we were in an obstacle course or in a self-growth camp, and I tried to coach them, and literally one of my friends turned around and said to me, "I'm not you. I'm not like you. I can't do what you do." And I thought, whoa, okay. So then I started to whisper to somebody else how to coach her because she wasn't going to listen to me. It worked, but I got it, and this piggybacks on the hater show, right? Because I knew that just me and what that means to whomever, the interpretation you have, the opinions that you have, is going to color how you hear what I say and what it means.
Absolutely, 100%. And the other side of it too is even without sometimes uttering a word, it's that energy that you or one portrays or exudes that will create that feeling. So oftentimes the relationships that you're about to get into or the relationships that you have are completely colored by who you are. But isn't that how it should be? You know, imagine having not that creating that energy level or that vibe and who you would be attracting into your life. So oftentimes you would attract maybe someone that wasn't, while I was intimidated by you because of your smartness, let's say, I did not let that interfere with the fact that I was able to have a relationship with you after a couple of meetings. One was and this was when we were just friends, and this was at that podcast conference in Anaheim that we went together to. And then when I met you again at New Media Summit that September, right? Just a month after that meeting. So the two of those combined let me adjust my thinking about you, not thinking that you were confident in an egotistical way, but just confident in how you held yourself. And I thought it was great. But had you held yourself differently or been a different person or created a different character for yourself, that would have probably not worked for me, because then you would have been just like everybody else. I think part of that was what attracted me to you as a person, not as a romantic relationship, but just as a person, because then I found out that you're just a normal person that just happens to be extremely smart. and then I was really drawn in towards you as a friend, because I thought, this is somebody that has their shit together. And that was somebody that I wanted to align myself with. I'm always aligning myself with people that have some strengths that I don't have, and you possess some things that I didn't have, which is probably why I was intimidated by you to begin with and then attracted to you eventually. Does any of that make sense? Or I look at it and think, okay, now why was I friends with you, and what was it that you did that made me turn the corner from being intimidated and repelled as opposed to intimidated and pulled in? So
Well,
interesting.
we had several shows that we recorded. So you and I did this. We did this Zoom thing across the country, had 2 or 3 interviews. And because of your goals, you at least trusted my smarts to help you with your goals with exercise. And then you became a client. So we had a lot of time to get to know each other. So I think that probably helped. But I don't want to make this show about necessarily how you and I worked out our stuff. But what I want to utilize this example, I was talking with a friend last night about sort of what like my new habits are around people who are perceived to be more successful or better well known or whatever, that I sort of anchor in this. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like if you can imagine that you're sitting at your chair and you've got an energy coming out of your body through your root chakra and down into the floor, and it's like grounding, like so solid. And that's what I anchor down for some reason when I'm around, and it's an anchoring of, I don't care. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how many best-selling books on whatever platform you have. I don't care. Like, that's not going to be how I determine who you are to me and if we can have a relationship. And
Okay.
not you, Doug Sandler.
No. I got you.
I just mean people in general. So like some recent people that we have met where other people might say, oh my God, did you know that person and how successful they are? And right. And then what happens is we all, in some aspects of life, sometimes make up stories. We make up stories all the time, but sometimes we make up stories about someone we don't know. And we get these opinions and ideas. Like we have this whole thing before we even ever meet them. And then all of a sudden, I think we do ourselves a disservice by coloring who we think they are, and not allowing them to show up and allowing us to connect on an authentic level that has nothing to do with egotistical, outwardly, worldly names or money or stature, anything like that.
Okay, so as I am true to do with all of my Nice Guys on Business episodes, and anytime that we talk, I want to really connect this with the people that are listening to this. So, although that's how we are, tell me how people are in general. What do people do when it comes to relationships? So, how is this affecting? And can you take what you've said and pull this into an application into?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna pull this into my own relationships. And I want to use that as a teaching tool today, because I think that we get wrapped up in our stories about what's going on for other people, and the reason why we do it. So for me, this whole show, not Women, Men, and Relationships, but Fit to Love, me podcasting, all the information, all the different days of the week and the different kinds of information, was created for me to gently, in non-intrusive ways, teach those I loved about some of their wounds or some of the things that stop them in life. And this could be anywhere from my family to close friends, but I was bringing on other experts or using the platform to educate others. Now,
I was going to say, so when communicating with them directly doesn't work, just yell louder at others. I guess that's where I was going.
No. I'm wanting to connect that I'm wanting to connect that when we take action. So if you just hear me say that, what that probably sounds like is JJ knows better. JJ thinks she knows better, so she's going to teach her friends and family how to be better. And while that is one story you could tell, and that is a story that people have told and decided to stick with and decided that that's who I am, therefore they don't like me because they think I'm just an egotistical bitch. So, okay, so that's one story. Now, the other story is there's actually could be many stories, but let's take my point of view. My point of view is I see people suffer. I see people with depression, with anxiety, with addiction, with chronic pain in their body, with frustration on how to find happiness. You know, I saw a post today that said something about finding happiness, or I read something about finding happiness. Guys, you don't find happiness, you allow it. It exists all the time, and it isn't dependent on another person. And it
Totally at
isn't
a different frequency, just at a different frequency where than you are in, and exists at the same. It's just at a different plane. That's it. There's these negative energy fields that are happening all the time. There's these moderate energy fields happening all the time. There are these elated energy fields that happen all the time. You just have to align yourself with the one that you choose to. Why can't you fucking get that?
well, why? Why? Because of the story. The story that we're
Right,
telling
right,
ourselves
right.
keeps us in the frequency. So let's take the story of that JJ must know more than the rest of us, and she thinks she does. So she's a bitch. She doesn't care. She thinks she's better than us. That is one story. If you choose to, and please understand that your beliefs are a choice. If you choose to believe that story, there's no room for love, for compassion, for growth, for analysis or connection, because you've made a decision about somebody and you've told a story that creates disconnection. So on the other side, how this relates and how what you can do about it, you know, for me, I had to recognize, and one of these things came up for me in the therapy session. I had to recognize my own wound in some of this. And while my intentions were to provide love and healing and hope and happiness and freedom and pain-free living and connection, deep, authentic connection, and awareness and consciousness. That was my goal. That's always my goal. But some people decide because it's too confronting and the wounds are too deep and I don't want to do what you say that I should do, and I want to put you down because of it, then I have to take a strong look at what am I doing? What's JJ focused on? Why is my mission to help somebody else? What about me? So what came out of my therapy session last week was one of the things that I've learned through being not just a podcast host, but being a personal trainer. I've got one client who I hope it doesn't happen, but if he should have a heart attack, I won't be surprised. I have another client that just went through something traumatic, and I'm not surprised because of the amount of emotional unawareness there is, right? And the denial of the inner world and the inner self and the inner yearnings and longings and truths. Now, that doesn't mean you have to disrupt your outer side. You know, that's where it comes to relationships. People think, well, if I just get divorced or if I just break up with this person, my whole life's going to get back to normal and everything's going to be hunky dory. But I'm here to tell you that whether you realize it or not, your relationship provides you a master's degree in life and connection if you choose to take it. If you don't, and that's okay, you decide to stay in an unconscious relationship, which sometimes people handle by drinking too much, eating too much, constantly traveling, always being with other people, never sitting still, having anxiety, taking medication, taking pain pills, looking at like trying to accomplish whatever the goal is. And we're never sitting still long enough to recognize that we're trying to run away from our pain.
Okay, so what happens in the case, and we've talked about this a number of times on women, men, and relationships. What happens in the case where you're willing to work at it, but your partner isn't? And when you run into that situation, I know there's many people in our community because I've had personal experience communicating one-on-one with these people, especially at your events and your retreats. What happens when you're willing to do the work, and you have a partner that isn't?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I believed and still believe to a very large degree is that you use your relationship as a mirror for you. And what I probably didn't get until recently is that I was also, besides the fact that I was in one way being very nurturing and trying to help out of love, out of out of if you're better, then we're better. And if you don't have pain and anxiety and this and that and whatever, then we can connect on a deeper level. So ultimately, I get served because I get what I want, which is a better relationship. But all the while, what am I really doing? I'm also trying to prove through, and my behavior changed. You all know that when I did the Imago therapy exercise the first time, or maybe you do, I did the Imago, creating your Imago exercise 3 times. And the first time I did it, there was a question about, what do you do when you don't get what you want? What's your behavior? What are your habits? And it goes back to childhood, like with your mother, your father, or any other parent or sibling. And the pattern was super clear. And the minute I saw it, I stopped. But my pattern was to educate, to basically try to show you why I'm right, or why I believe that I'm right, or why my method would work and why it's the best thing to do. And when people aren't open to that, I talked about that last week on the Hater Show. Like, when you're giving unsolicited advice, like negative reviews on a podcast, like if you really think that's going to help, it's not. It's not, because you're not actually asking, hey, can I give you a bit of advice? You just want to vent. You're using that person as a punching bag. If you actually really care about contributing to somebody else's growth, you write them an email, or you make a phone call, or you say, hey, is it okay if I share something that I think would be beneficial for you? That's how you ask for permission. So in the way of how a lot of women, and I'm going to go after the women, but there are men too. I can remember a friend of mine who his role was rescuer. He loved picking up broken women who needed to be rescued, because then he felt like that's how they loved him. But what happened is they'd all leave him because he just helped them get from broken back to normal. And then they were never attracted to him. He did himself a huge disservice. But being the rescuer is how he got attention. So his own confidence in himself, just as a person, without having to work for it or earn it, wasn't there. Well, of course, we were friends at that time. And that's a mirror for me. What's going on for me? Well, what was I trying to do? Maybe I was trying to work on my own self-love, because I wanted to show people that I was smart, and I wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to have other people love me and accept me and see me, because quite honestly, it has been hard. So back to that whole confidence conversation in the therapist. Years ago, doctor, I'm not going to mention her name, said to me, well, you're gifted. And it was the first sort of positive comment that I'd had in a therapy session. And her mother had had created tests for ADD and ADHD and different brain tests. And she said, well, no wonder why you've had a hard time, because you're in like the top 1%. Like your brain doesn't function like everybody else's brain. And at that point, I didn't like that, because what it meant for me is that no one can relate to me then that makes me even more weird, even more different. It's another excuse for me to not have anyone really know me. So that was really, really sad. But on the flip side, once I kind of thought about it, once I accepted it and I embraced it, I thought, okay, well, that's part of who I am. It makes sense. And now I can understand a little bit differently how to accept people for who they are and where they are. Astrology helped me with that, but now I can take a step back. But the bottom line for all of this was that I was also searching for my own self-love, my own acceptance of myself, my story about who I am, and how I haven't been able to I've had relationships that have been really good, but I haven't, until you really, and certain friends, found people that actually could reflect me back or really saw me for who I was in totality, because I didn't match their frequency. They didn't have the capacity to understand me. And I think that there is part of that in life that's really important.
So take me to the next level with that, because according to what you're saying, though, your happiness should not rely upon anyone else other than yourself. What if you were never able to find those people in your life that you were able to connect with on a level where you felt like you were accepted? Now, I know part of being a human, I feel like, is that connection with other human beings. But what I'm hearing also you're saying is that that should not be a factor in your happiness or not.
Well, it wasn't. I remember when the whole thing happened back a year ago, you had no idea what I had been going through or what had happened. And I asked everyone I knew, was I a happy person? And many of my clients said, you're the happiest person I know. I was never not happy. I am not unhappy. There's a difference between what I'm focused on every day and how I'm choosing to focus and how I'm choosing to spend my energy or have a conversation or to listen to my body or to ask myself what it is that I need today and to allow myself room and space to process or to just be. Today was about being. I did some work, but I needed to be. Been triggered a couple times. So I needed some space to just be and to allow myself to emote, to pull some cards, which we're going to talk about. So I didn't blame my state of emotion on anyone else. And I know most of you that have been listening to the show for a while, you know that hardcore about who I am. That is my message to you. But that doesn't mean, even though I can be happy by myself, it still means in a relationship with someone who isn't on the same page or isn't of the belief that you can grow or that you should grow or that you need to grow in a relationship, then it can be a very lonely experience. And then you're just two people living in a situation where you're roommates, or maybe you're going through the motions. Maybe you have sex and you go on vacations and you have kids and you're friends and you're going, but you've lost that deep connection, that intimacy. Many people, and we talked about this last week, many people think, well, I want a better relationship. Well, if you're not going to get a better relationship unless you work on it, that's like saying, well, I want to get more fit, but I'm never going to exercise. That doesn't make any sense. You know that you have to contribute time and energy and effort into exercising to get the result of being more fit. It's not going to happen that you wish you had a better relationship if you're not going to do anything about it. Yes?
I agree. I think that it's really hard to get blood from a stone, though. So oftentimes you'll have someone that's in our community, and they are so wanting to have a better relationship, and they so want to have a positive attitude, and they so want to do the things that would benefit their relationship, and they just have a partner that is not willing to step up. And it's hard to, and I can relate to this. I came out of a relationship where all I wanted was for her to work. Please give us this try. Let's try this. Let's just, okay, so we got screwed up here, and yes, you needed space, and yes, I probably said some shitty things, and yes, I probably did some wrong things, never anything that was immoral though, and yes, we both need to work at it. But if you're going to just walk away, which is the case of my last marriage, if you're just going to walk away, there's nothing I can do about it other than just have a broken heart, feel the pain for a little while, which I did. And, and still to a certain degree, I'm sure there is still that pain that's in my heart. But fortunately, time does work to its advantage in this particular case, at least for me. But there are so many people that would be like, well, what are you supposed to do when you just have a partner that's willing to walk away and give it all up? It's like nothing you can do about it other than feel like shit.
Well, okay, that's a story. You could
Yeah.
decide that, because what's the story you're telling yourself then?
I'm not saying you're going to stay in that shit. I'm not saying stay there. And you know me, I've gone through my entire life with a positive attitude, but even a positive attitude guy like me, that kicked the shit out of me. And that really rocked my world more so than I've ever been rocked before. So for me, yes, I did need to go through the therapy. Yes, I can't imagine manifesting any better person to go through this pain with than you, because you put my head on straight and you helped me through this. I would call you, although my partner, you were my teacher in many cases, and you were my therapist in many cases, and you did help me through the use of your show, not because I was listening to it as a podcast, but as you were actually sharing your advice with people that were listening to your show. I was taking the advice too, and I'm thinking, okay, so we did the Harville Hendrix retreat. We have done some other things that I think have been extremely beneficial. We have communicated better than I've ever communicated in my life. So talk about vibrating at a frequency that I needed you in my life to help me get through that. And look who arrived at my life in my life in exactly the right time. You.
Yeah. And we're just at the beginning. And when I was before we started recording today, like I said earlier, I've had a couple triggers, and the triggers were of sadness. The triggers were of sadness because of feeling rejected and feeling, and here's the funny thing. So I want to put this out there for those of you, because I know, I bet a lot of you do this. Intellectually, I understand everything that's happened. I agree 100%. I believe it's all exactly unfolding in divine timing, in all that, in every way it's supposed to. At the same time, when you've been in a situation for 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, in your case, 7 years, and you have groups and friends and habits and patterns and traditions, and all of a sudden those things change, there's a little bit of adjustment that needs to happen. And to tie in sort of my own personal therapeutic journey with our relationship with the show, with what I want people to understand and what I hope to plant a seed in everybody with, is that as we grow, we can't take our old life with us. And that can be hard, because a lot of people don't like change, and they want to hang on with dear life to some of the things that they love to do. But the problem is it's impinging, it's hindering your growth. I'm not saying get rid of your friends. I'm just saying recognize that you can't behave like, in order to get a new life, you have to let go of the old one. And there has to be some mourning of that whole thing that happens. One of the other breakthroughs that I had in my therapy session was describing, since I haven't seen her in a couple of years, I did a double session. The first session was supposed to be EMDR, but we didn't do EMDR. And the second session was hypnosis. But there was a lot of information exchanged, and she actually said, I don't think you need EMDR. And then we did hypnosis. And then when we were done, she's like, I don't even think you need therapy. You're fine. You're good. Like, you've learned your lesson. Go away. You're good. And anyway, what happened is, and that's not true. I don't necessarily agree with that. I still think I still want to grow, but she wanted to confirm that you have deeply, deeply, deeply embedded these lessons. And now it's just the process of allowing yourself to feel the pain or whatever happens and continue moving on. And it's really obvious in terms of the growth because of the opportunities and the things that are changing in my life. So I was explaining the difference of how my life was energetically versus now. And I opened up my arms on the couch, like I said, like my wingspan. I opened up my arms in this big wingspan pose, and she said, freeze. And I started to cry, and I put my head back. And in that moment, it came to me so clearly. And a lot of women do this. Men do this too. So I'm not going to discount that. But I really got that I had held on to some wounded energy from a nurturing standpoint, as if it was mine and as if it was my job to help heal it. And I'd been holding it and carrying it for so long that I don't know how to be without it.
Mm-hmm.
That hit me really hard. It was my own aha moment because of the new wingspan, because of the amount of things that I'm able to attract. I mean, I said not too long ago, I need to manifest a paid reason to go to Atlanta. Boom. I said then I need a paid reason to go to New York. Boom. We want to buy a house. Boom. Not that that's happened yet, but we want this, that, and the other thing. Boom, boom, and boom. So it's this like unbelievable momentum that's happened since my spirit has been allowed to fly and soar without boundaries and with complete total support. And again, we're still at the beginning of our relationship, and we're in it long enough that we're starting to have little arguments and come up against some of our things. Yes?
Yeah, I agree.
So before today's show, I was feeling a little icky, and I thought I'm going to pull a tarot card. And I pulled the Lovers, which is number 6. And I just wanted to read it because I thought it was a good thing for people to hear, because this is coming out of the tarot. This is not out of Harville Hendrix' book or any of the other books that I have. It says, keywords: Gemini, love, attraction, approaching, connection, union of opposites through love, becoming conscious through relationship. The card shows the marriage of the Emperor and Empress. The ceremony is performed by the hermit, one of the forms of the god Mercury. He is completely hidden in his robes to symbolize that the origin of all things lie beyond the reach of the manifest and the intellect. The lovers represent two opposites which yearn for and are attracted to one another. This duality, which is reflected in every aspect of existence, is existentially experienced in the relations between man and woman, or any relationship. I'm going to say masculine and feminine. Every attempt at approach, union, connection is an expression of the passionate urge to reestablish this lost oneness. Every individual, every man, and every woman contains a duality of male and female. These express themselves in different, often contradictory personal characteristics. Psychologists have recognized for a long time that each partner in a relationship mirrors the mental and spiritual condition of the other. Usually, your partner mirrors aspects that are underdeveloped and unanimated in yourself. What you feel you are missing in yourself, you see in the other. This is an opportunity to have the vitally important experiences on the way toward awareness. The lesson can't be grasped theoretically, through intellectual examination, or by wallowing in sentiment. It demands direct, existential experiencing. It requires letting yourself in for all dimensions of joy, ecstasy, mutual enrichment, as well as the pain, struggle, and annihilation necessary for growth. I'm going to pause there for a second because the word annihilation really got to me today, right? Annihilation for growth. The first card that I pulled yesterday was the death card, one of my favorite cards. The death card is the death and rebirth. It doesn't mean literal death. It just means the death of something in order for something better to come through. I saw a picture on Instagram today of a friend who was standing on a mountain where not too long ago it was charred. And now there are beautiful purple flowers everywhere because fire purifies. Annihilation resets. It gives room for purification and growth. So I thought that was super interesting because, again, this is not a relationship book, but it's talking about that a relationship that is vital and alive allows those involved to experience all dualities, all opposites. With love comes jealousy. With harmony comes disharmony. With unity comes separation. And with excitement of becoming acquainted becomes sobering sense of estrangement. I'm going to stop there because, again, the point here is that I think that the most important thing for me, and the lesson that I will say that I've learned in my relationships, is that while I think there's a unconscious, sometimes I was pretty conscious asking for you, not you, Doug Sandler, but you in terms of what it is that I wanted out of a relationship. But there's a pretty unconscious attraction of you have the wounds, like the tarot was saying, that I see in you what I lack in myself, and that's why I'm so attracted to you. And then there's this assumption that we all have about marriage or relationships that it's just going to magically work out and we don't have to do anything about it, right? And then as Harville and Helen will say, that you attract your partners to heal the wounds of your past. And if you are unconscious about that, then you're going to repeat the patterns. It is guaranteed. You were just going to repeat the patterns of your childhood from your parents or past relationships. So now many of you that are listening to the show are not asleep because you're listening to the show. Whether you are experiencing any of this in your relationship or not, or doing anything about it, is a different story, but you're at least curious and understand that there's a yearning inside of you for something more, and you're just wondering how to get there. So one of the things I just wanted to share with everybody today, besides some of my own personal ahas in the last week, and again, this idea that, if you're in a relationship where you're telling yourself a story that keeps you disconnected, that's going to be the first place to start. One of the reasons why I held on as long as I did and had the hope is because, unfortunately, I kept telling myself, I'm smart enough to figure this out. This is fixable. It's all fixable. It's all fixable. I never took into consideration, what is your wound, JJ? What are you not willing to surrender to? I mean, I did eventually, but what are you not willing to surrender to accept? Because you're not the only person here. And you have to acknowledge that you're not in control. You are co-creating with another person. And I can't fix it by myself. And why am I trying? Really, I had one of the therapists ask me back then, why do you want to be in this relationship? And I said, because I really thought that I was supposed to be. I checked in with myself all the time. I was supposed to be. There were things I was meant to learn. And again, there were. It happened exactly the way that it was supposed to. But now, when you get out of the situation, I could take this into my family. When you've been disconnected, when you've been rejected, when you've been excommunicated, when you've had some kind of divorce, when you've broken up with a friend, when you no longer hang out with people because you've had a falling out, there's this strange energetic place that you feel like you want closure, and you feel like you want to involve them, but it's really not about them. It's about being able to trust your own self-growth and just allow the balance, allow the pain, allow the discomfort, and take a step back and have a different perspective with it, to know that you have to be able to grow and move away from that in order for you to, like, from a healthy place, not from a place of denial. Too many people, when they have someone hurt them, quote unquote, they get rid of them. And that is the first way. That is denial. That is denial of what's going on with you, that you just think, if I just eliminate them, it won't hurt anymore. But when you can come from a place of understanding that, what is that about for me? What is the mirror? That's the one question I want you all to ask yourself. When something triggers you, don't think it's about the other person. Ask, what is it about me? What is it within me that's going on for me that is creating this feeling? What is the story that I'm telling? And what is the belief I have about this that feels so bad? Because that's where you're going to get closure, not from saying, hey, you, I want to talk to you. Hey, you, I'm going to tell you how you hurt my feelings. Hey, you, I'm going to ask you to change your behavior so I feel better. Because that's not the frequency that you're on. There's something going on, and this person is a mirror for you. And today I had a really strong mirror of how divorce sucks. And not because I don't love you, Doug, as you know, but
Oh yeah, I understand.
divorce sucks because you spend all this time and energy and effort with people, and you have these ideas about your future, and these ideas about looking back 30 years, or that you only have one wedding. Pissed I am about the fact that that's done, like that whole thing, like the wedding, that it just so that pisses me off. I'm quite upset about that. And I know that sounds pretty silly, but it's because I had one of the most perfect weddings ever. And I had a dream, and I fulfilled my dream. And now I don't, there's, like, we're talking about buying a house. Okay. That's something very visual. I know what I want. I'm very specific. So that feels like, okay, great, cool. I have no goal for, like, there's nothing else. I did what I said I was going to do in my life. Now what? I don't have, and I know there'll be a new dream that will emerge at some point in time. But
And
especially,
just so you know, I hear your words, and I am not. I don't take any of these words personally. I know you had that wedding, and I know I had a couple of those weddings. So I respect what you're saying, and I'm not taking any of this as I married the man of my dreams, and you're not. I'm not hearing that, so I'm totally fine with where you're going. I hear you, and I sense the pain, and and I've seen it in you in the last year, and I've really sensed it in the last couple of months, and I know that this is a struggle for you that you will get beyond. There is no doubt in my mind, and I can be there to support you, and I can be there to hold your hand through it, and I can be there to understand that you're not directing that at me. This is something that you need to go through, and I respect the fact that you're going through it, and we're on the same page. I get you, and I love you, and I love you for what you're doing and what you're going through. So, I know I don't need to say that in order for you to hear the words, and you can feel my feelings. And we say this all the time. Do you feel my love for you? And even through this stuff, which many people would have as, I think many people would put a mirror to this and say, I don't know that I could do that, for my partner. I don't know that I could hear about this ex-spouse to be and be able to deal with it. And I'm just, because I am where I am in my life, I'm with you. I hear you, and I support you, and I love that I'm able to be here for you and to go through this with you.
thanks, honey. My lesson in this where my room to grow is what's about to happen, right? What's about to happen, what we've manifested. I manifested you, you manifested a connection, and we together manifested a new opportunity, which is going to be pretty life changing. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
In pretty much every way, except relationship, because we got that down in, right?
Yes.
So I want you all to just think about what it is that you really want. I asked a client who I know is listening the other day, I asked them to, without thinking, without overthinking, I'm going to ask you a question. And it was, do you want to save your marriage? And you have to get clear. And I did. And I absolutely did. That was my number one goal. I had no doubt that I could do it. Mostly because I knew that there were tools. Like I understood, to me, it's intellectual. If I understand it all, then why wouldn't you use the tools that would help the situation? This is textbook. All these textbooks are talking about exactly what's going on right now. So can't you see this is a normal thing and it's fixable? To me, that is so logical. I don't understand when someone says, no, I don't. So when you are really honest with what it is that you want, and you say, I want change, I want growth, or I want love, or I want connection, or I want better sexual relationships, and then you go against yourself, that's where that's where struggle comes in, because now you have asked for something, you're not in alignment with it because there is something else attached to it. For me, I know what it is. It's that I have been, and here's the story, and I'm going to change the story, but for me, some of this growth, and it came with the ending of the relationship and with you, it's if I'm always so nurturing and caretaking and trying to help change, I'm not looking at me, right? I'm in denial about, well, what can I do for me? Now, the denial was, if I really was honest, then I would have probably said, well, it's time for me to move on a long time ago, because I have a lot more expanding to do and I can't do it here, and you're not interested. What's about to happen, what's about to change affects all kinds of things in our lives. For me, it does. It changes my business. It changes the people that I see on a weekly basis. It changes my pricing structure. It changes the people we hang out with. It changes how much we're around. It changes the financial status that we're going to be in. It's going to change the opportunities that we have. It's going to change the conversations that we have with people. And it's going to change a lot about what's going on. And I don't think it has to change everything, but just by default, again, if we're moving into a new level of expansion, of course it's going to. We're in a whole new place. So it's a whole new experience. And again, you can't have a new life and take your old life with you.
How exciting is that? I mean, just think about what you're saying. And, I am the ambassador of positivity, and and I'm the manifester of that as well. And what's so great about it is I had no idea how the hell I was ever going to get there. And there you are in my life. And although I am the connector, I am not the facilitator of it. It really is. I mean, it's almost like I can say, well, anybody can kind of do this. And it's like, no. Nobody can do this. It would take divine frequency in order for me to manifest the connection, for you to manifest the smarts, the intellectual property, and for us to go where we're going. And that, for me, that just blows my mind. But it doesn't even surprise me anymore in the last 12 months. Come on. I mean, don't you kind of agree with me here? Does it surprise you anymore when things find their way to us anymore?
No.
Me neither. So because of that mere fact alone, doesn't that bring other things like this?
It does, and I hope that it will. Here's where and I'm not saying obviously I signed the deal yesterday, so this is not about me having any fear about it. It's when people ask for change, you can't have change and still hold on to what you have. That's the lesson that I want you to understand. I couldn't hang on with both hands, wanting something different, but accepting what was. You have to surrender at some point to allow it to unfold and let go.
I know, but this is my lesson to learn as well, because all of the things that I have through my life that I'm still like, oh my gosh, hanging on to. I'm got like tentacles, gripping out there. I'm like, no, you've got to let go, and I know I've got to let go. I know I do. It's almost like, just give me the shred of evidence, and believe me, that shred of evidence comes a lot more solid when we ink deals. And we're, as you said, you've signed yours, and I'm in the process of doing mine, and it's like, holy shit, the major shit could go down here in a very positive way. So I look at it and say, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, and I can see where it's going. And it's just a matter of now. It's now just a matter of time, and I'm excited for everything, whether it's this deal or the other deals that are created because of the frequency that we're now at.
All right, so let's tell them what it is, so that way we can stop talking hypothetically. Some people know, people that are part of the mastermind program know, and some of the personal clients, and more will be revealed because it's going to change some things. So let me tell you what's going on. So I have now just signed a deal where I have become director of conscious communication for a company called Conscious Selling. And Conscious Selling is a company that does sales training as well as customer service training for vertically high tech companies and big names that in fact, you use some of those companies like LinkedIn, and who else? Anyway, there's big names: Dropbox,
Salesforce,
Dropbox,
Spotify.
Yep.
I mean,
Spotify.
just all companies.
Right. What's your title now? Director of Global Communication?
Director of Global Influence.
Oh, right. Global Influence. Sorry, I came up with it, but I forgot it. Director of Global Influence. So we are basically having new business partners, and what that means for me is I'm going to be taking the work that I'm already doing with you and releasing what weighs you down, and the next big step, and even probably some of the things that I'll do at the Manifestation Bootcamp. And I'm taking my intellectual property into their clients for me, and we'll be creating a new track in corporate America, basically teaching the anatomy of emotion, nonviolent communication, and then from both the point of view of the employee, salesperson versus also the customer. So on top of that, because of me, the company thought that once I went in there and did that they'd also want me to do sales training. So Doug and I will be tag teaming some sales training and being groomed to maybe even replace their top trainer. And we're probably going to travel a little bit more, and we're going to be exposed to a lot of people. And they have 4 different companies. Their main company is called Conscious Selling. I'm not going to tell you about all of them, but then the next one that I'm going to tell you, you guys might be interested in. So the other company, because that was B2B, and it will turn from B2B, which is business to business, to B2C, business to customer to consumer. So they're going to sell to everybody now. And we'll tell you the story later at some other date about how we attracted it, because it's a fun story about how it all manifested and how it all came to be. And it's very inspiring because it's going to help you understand that as long as you believe you can get what you want, you don't have to know how it's going to come to you, because how we got this was so crazy. So we're not going to tell you the story today, though, because we've already gone too long. But their other company that they are a part of is called Brightstar Live Events. And I've been on Brightstar's email list for at least a couple of years now. And I'm going to be working with Brightstar to fill my events and to create new events for the community of Brightstar. And what that's going to mean, so I'm just going to warn you ahead of time, what that's going to mean is that the price is going to increase on the boot camp, which is happening in October. Now, the couples retreat, we're probably not going to put through Brightstar since it's so little. It's only 4 or 5 other couples. So we're not going to promote that, but we will be promoting the Manifestation Bootcamp October 11th through the 13th. And if we fill it through them, I will add another weekend, but the price will have to go up because there's going to be some profit shares for tickets. And I'll let you know in case you're interested in coming. The current price is $697 right now. And there's a 2 and a 3 pay plan. You can go to jjflizanes.com/bootcamp to check that out. I'm going to guess the price is going to go up to like $8 or $997, but as soon as I know, I'll let you guys know. And then they'll also help me put some more people in the whale trip. And then we're going to create some other events. They even may host Releasing What Weighs You Down next year. I don't know what's happening with that. I still don't know what's happening, but we're going to all talk about it next week. And as things unfold, it just means that my time will be less available. My pricing will go up because of other companies involved, because they'll now be promoting both of us in many ways, and we'll be.
But JJ, will you still be doing Fit to Love, Women, Men, and Relationships, and all of the other podcasts? I think the 42 of them that you have.
At this point in time, yes. My goal is not to stop podcasting. My goal is to continue podcasting and to build the shows that currently have a good momentum. I'm going to be putting out another couple shows and see how they do. I'm going to continue with my original goal, which was to repurpose the content from Fit to Love. So this week, actually, Nutrition and Alternative Medicine will now have its own content that you will not get anywhere else. So if you would like to find out about the ultimate sugar replacement, go back and find Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. And we've got some other repurposed episodes coming up about cell phones and about the truth about bioidentical hormones and about acupuncture for the emotional body. So Nutrition and Alternative Medicine will now absolutely have its own brand new content and repurpose shows that you will not get on Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, Women, Men, and Relationships, or Fit to Love again.
So Doug, you will still be around. You'll just be more expensive.
Probably. Probably. We'll see. Again, guys, nothing's happened yet. I just signed the deal. Doug hasn't signed his deal yet. We are going to Atlanta next week. I've got a meeting with Bright Star on Wednesday, and they're ready to go. So if you sign up for their email list and you start to see me on it, you'll know that things are in full swing, and who knows, but it's
an exciting time. Holy mackerel. What an exciting time in our lives.
Yeah. And what the most fun thing was when you said to me, because I believe, again, I'm not the best person to give you the advice for how to be smart in a safe way. Okay. I am not the smart and safe person. And I told that to a friend last night. And I would never say, you should repeat what JJ did in her business and her life. No, because I take risks. And because I also believe wholeheartedly in my future. I have no idea how it's going to happen, but I know for sure that it's going to happen. And so now that it's happening, I looked at Doug and Heath, and you said,
I don't know. Why don't you?
Am I just a pawn in your?
Yeah, that's right. Am I just a pawn in your life? I'm the one that created this whole thing, and not because you know what I mean. Well, maybe we got to explain the story, but we'll do that at another time. But yes, I feel like, wow, you manifested me. I manifested the connection. Without you, this wouldn't have happened. Without me, this wouldn't have happened. It was perfectly timed, divinely intervened.
And we will both be rewarded greatly and hopefully having an amazing time. They want to invest in us. So we will continue to be here because this is the work that I love and it inspires me, and I want to connect with you, and I want to help you, if you so desire, to take the learnings, the teachings that I have or that I share with you from other experts and apply them to your life, because I do believe that you deserve to have the happiest, most fun, fulfilling, connected experience that you want to have. And there's nothing in your way except you most of the time. And some lessons that you need to learn. But I'm here to tell you that the lessons aren't always easy. And I know maybe I make it sound like it's easy, but they fucking suck. And sometimes you just want to cry, and sometimes you want to punch something, and sometimes you want to lay on the couch and do nothing. And that's all cool too. You have to process, but you have to process is the point. So you can't do that all the time and be in denial and then think there's going to be growth and resolution. So I hope today has inspired something in you and that you got something out of it. And I appreciate everyone who's listening.
It inspired me, and I think I got a lot out of it. And I'm ready to take this relationship, JJ, to the next level.
I'm so glad to hear that, Doug. I'm so glad.
I just want to buy a house for our cats. That's all I want.
And then all the other cats I'm gonna have to rescue because we have a house now. We're gonna have to build a shed in the back, right? For like the cat shed.
Yep. With its own little milking station.
Oh, I know. That's what I need to invent because bottle feeding 6 kittens with one person is not easy. So I'm gonna have to invent that if it doesn't exist. So
Mhm.
anyway, hope you guys have a great weekend. If you are interested in the couples retreat, again, I haven't made the form yet. So don't, for those of you that have reached out to me, I'm just continuing to tell you that I'm probably not going to run it through Bright Star, and it will still stay small, and it'll still stay on New Year's weekend, and it'll still be 4 or 5 couples. And you still have to sort of pass the test, and you have to fill out the forms, and you have to like each other to start. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next week.
See you guys. Love y'all.